Hello.
Hello, good evening. Just getting things set up.
Hi. Good evening.
Yep. So my name is Catherine Kaplan. I work with SEB Housing, and this is the information session for the 14 affordable rental housing units at Aura and Medfield.
Yes.
Yep. So the purpose of this session is to give a little bit of background information on the available units. We're also going to cover the application, the eligibility and lottery process, and also what to expect after the lottery itself. So if you have any questions during the session, this is obviously on Zoom, so you can type them into the chat, or you can unmute yourself to ask a question. As you came onto the Zoom session, you were muted, so if you do ask a question, we just ask that you mute yourself again so we can minimize any noise. So the session, as you saw when you came in, is being recorded. It will be saved on the SEB Housing YouTube channel after the fact if you need to reference it for any reason. If you have any questions after tonight's session, you can reach us at info@sebhousing.com, and we'll be happy to answer any questions you might have that you didn't think of tonight. You can also call the 617 number that is on your screen as well. So if you have any logistical issues or trouble seeing the screen or anything like that, let me know now. And if not, I'll continue on. So I just want to give some background information on SEB Housing. So we're an off-site affordable housing consulting group. We're not the management company or the team that is selling the affordable units. We've been hired by the developer to market the affordable units, conduct this information session, review and collect applications from interested applicants, and determine applicants' eligibility for the affordable housing program before running the lottery. So in the initial phases, we at SEB are your main point of contact rather than the management or leasing office. But then further along in the process, you would be more in touch with the leasing office over there as you move towards renting an apartment. So there's really two broad steps in the process. The first is to apply for the affordable housing program. And so during that step, you're going to be in touch with us. You can answer any questions you have on the program. We will review your application and your supporting income, asset, and tax documentation. And then if you're eligible, you'll be entered into the lottery and given a position on the waiting list following the lottery. The second step in the process is when you'll be in touch with the leasing office for lease eligibility. And that's completely separate from the screenings that SEB Housing does. And it might include, background check, credit check, rental history, that sort of thing that you might be familiar with from other rentals. So once you're approved by SEB, you'd be working with the leasing office to reserve and lease an apartment. So if you haven't already, you should go to our website and check out the listing for Aura and Medfield. And our website is on your screen now too. So it's sebhousing.com. If you click on the affordable housing opportunities page and you select I want to rent, you can select Aura from there. And you'll be taken to a page specific to this property. It's going to have a downloadable version of both the application and the information packet. And the information packet contains most of the information I'll be covering during the session tonight. And we're not going to have time to cover everything that's in there. So even if you attend this information session, we always recommend that you take a look at that information packet as well. There may be some things that we didn't go over that could be helpful to you. So if you go ahead and choose to apply for one of the affordable units at Aura, you're going to need to complete the lottery application and then supply all of the supporting documentation that is listed in there. And you can submit your whole package in one of several ways. So the first would be to send it to us by email or a scan, and that would be sent to info@sebhousing.com. You can send it to the fax number. The fax number is listed on the first page of the application. You can send it by regular mail to our office at 257 Hillside Ave in Needham if you're in that area. There's a drop box that is located to the left of the building, and that's secure and checked every day. So whichever of those is easiest for you, you can go ahead and do that.
Okay.
So we encourage you to get your lottery application in early. It is fairly lengthy, and you're going to see that there on the application, there is a lot of supporting documentation that is required. So we're going to talk more about that during this presentation. The applications are due on August 17th, and the applications would need to be postmarked by that date to be considered. You do not need to be a resident of Medfield to apply for this lottery. There are going to be several units that have local preference for residents of Medfield, and we'll talk about that later on in more detail, but it shouldn't discourage anyone who is not currently living in Medfield from applying. So just to talk a little bit more too about the opportunity. So this property, Aura at Medfield, does have a website. I've listed it on your screen here. It's just auramedfield.com. And you can check that out for, you know, a more comprehensive list of amenities and the floor plans of the units, that sort of thing. But Aura at Medfield is a brand new 56-unit residential apartment community located at 50 Peter Christoph Way. And there's going to be 14 affordable apartments there that will be rented to households with incomes at or below 80% of the area median income. The apartments, I have some amenities listed here for you. All of the apartments feature in-unit laundry, walk-in closets. The kitchens have stainless steel appliances with center islands and quartz countertops. The building amenities include an entertainment lounge, a communal office area for anybody working from home, a fitness facility, a yoga studio, and then they have a lot of outdoor amenities as well with gas grills, a pizza oven, putting green, fire pit, as well as an indoor dog washing station and a off-leash play area outside if you have a pet. The building does have 4 floors and an elevator. And the affordable rents are considerably less than the rents that they will be charging for the market rate units within the development. So there are affordable 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, and 3-bedroom apartments being offered. There are 8 1-bedroom apartments that feature 840 square feet, and those affordable rents will be $1,908. There's 4 2-bedroom apartments, and those will have 1,400 square feet and will rent for $2,104. There are 2 3-bedroom apartments that have 1,700 square feet and will rent for $2,290. One of each of those units, so there's 1 1-bedroom, 1 2-bedroom, 1 3-bedroom that are built out for residents with hearing and visual impairments. And then the 3-bedroom accessible unit also is disabled accessible. So it would also be suitable for persons with mobility impairment. So just wanted to put that out there. Hot water is also included in the rent, but tenants will be responsible for the other utilities. So this particular affordable housing opportunity is not subsidized housing, and the affordable rent amounts are not based on a household's specific income or financial circumstances. So this means that the rent will not change for you if your income changes. So these are the set rent amounts. They are set for the housing program using a formula that is based off of HUD, so the Department of Housing and Urban Development's area median income for the Boston area, which is where Medfield falls. So they're set with the idea that the amount should be affordable to households making 80% or less of the area median income. So the rent may increase about once, or it could increase once per year. And typically this occurs in the spring after HUD revises the area median income. There's always advance notice to tenants if a rent increase is coming up, and they're usually pretty modest, in between $25 and $75. So the rents will never change in the middle of your lease term. And so the affordable units at Aura were selected by the owner and approved by DHCD as being representative of the units in the building as a whole. So What this means is they're not the smallest, they're not all clustered in one location in the building, and they're not identifiable as affordable from the outside in any way. So we're doing this lottery process because it's possible that there are going to be more interested and eligible participants than there are available units. And these units are only going to be available to households who have incomes at or below that 80%. And we're going to touch on those income limits in just a few minutes as well. But I just want to pause there before getting into the eligibility requirements and criteria to make sure. Does anybody have any questions yet? Specific things you were hoping to ask? All right, so the eligibility requirements are listed on page 4 of the information packet, if you've taken a look at that. And there's 4 eligibility requirements of the program. The first is the income and assets of the household. So as I mentioned a couple of times already, the household income needs to be at or below 80% of the area median income in order to qualify for this affordable housing program. The second item to keep in mind for eligibility purposes is that household priority will be given based on household composition. So when you fill out the application, you will have indicated whether you are a, quote, type 1, type 2, or type 3 household. And for the household type is tied to the priority that you'll have on each wait list. So for example, a type 2 household can apply for a 3-bedroom unit, but you want to be aware that if you're a type 2 household, type 3 households are going to have priority for 3 bedrooms. And the idea of household type is that the larger households are going to be given priority for the larger units, and that these larger units that are on the affordable housing program are not always occupied by households who might not require that sort of space. So page 7 of that information packet that I've mentioned has more information on household types. Basically, if you're a 1-person household, you're a type 1 household, and so forth, but there are some variations. The third eligibility criteria, you cannot own a home upon move-in. So if you do own a home right now, that doesn't mean that you can't apply to rent an apartment at Medfield, but your home would need to be sold prior to leasing a unit. So if you're listening to this info session, you would just need to think about whether or not your home would be sold before you would be signing a lease at Aura. And then the fourth is, this doesn't come up often at all, but I want to mention it anyway. So households cannot have financial interest in the development and can't be considered what's referred to as a related party. And these units are being offered by Mayrock Development. So if you work for them or are related to them in some way, you might not be eligible for the lottery. So just to circle back on the first and probably most complicated eligibility criteria, income and assets for the household. So since these are affordable units, they are being made available to rent at lower prices than the market rate units in the community. The maximum income limits are on your screen right now by household size, but just in case anyone's only listening by phone, I'm going to list them right now. So these are also listed in the information packet. They're on the application, no need to write them down. If you're a household of one person in your household, the maximum income limit for this program is $78,300. If you're a household of 2, the maximum income limit for your household is $89,500. A household of 3, $100,700. A 4-person household, the maximum income limit is $111,850. A 5-person household, $120,800. And if you have 6 people in your household, the maximum income limit is $129,750. So all households that are applying are going to be required to submit supporting income, asset, and tax documentation. The required documents for your household are going to vary a little bit depending on your source of income. But all households are going to need to submit federal tax returns for the last year and copies of bank statements for the last 3 months. Section 2 of the application is very detailed, and it lists all of the information that you're going to need to verify your income. So, for example, if you're employed and you just receive a pay stub every week or every 2 weeks, it's going to let you know how many pay stubs you're going to need and all of that. And again, all of that supporting documentation is submitted with your lottery application by that deadline of October 17th. So I just want to give a basic overview too of how we're going to calculate your income. And income for this program is counted as a projection of your income over the next 12 months for all household members. So that's everyone that's in your household. You're going to want to include any income coming into them, benefits, wages, overtime, bonuses, that sort of thing. The only exception to this are minors, so anyone under the age of 18 that is employed. We're not going to count their wages towards your total household income. And then the second is for dependent full-time students who are working, we're only going to count the first $480 towards your household income when we're determining your eligibility. We're required to count gross income, not net, so the amount that you make before taxes, although obviously we recognize that none of us are taking home the full amount of our salary. The gross income is required to be counted according to the program regulations. And so obviously everyone's income circumstances are unique. There's some participants who have a consistent weekly salary throughout the year, but there are other people who are self-employed or they're working seasonally. So in those circumstances, we might need to look further back into the past in order to project your household income for the next 12 months. So specifically for applicants who are self-employed, you will need to complete a profit and loss statement and provide supporting documentation for your business. So there is a template or sample profit and loss statement included at the end of the application. So if you are self-employed, your business expenses are considered when we're counting your income. But for households who are not self-employed, we do need to count your gross income when we're determining your total household income. And so in general, any income you have been making, we're going to assume that you will continue to make it going forward unless there's some sort of definitive documentation stating that you're no longer going to be earning that income source. So for example, you might have a written letter from your employer stating that bonuses or overtime are not going to be paid out in the coming year. We could consider that. But we're not able to accept statements from applicants themselves. So for example, if we're looking at documentation that was submitted showing that you made $80,000 last year, but you're telling us that you plan to work far less hours in the coming year and you're only going to be making, $70,000, we would still need to count that $80,000 as your projected income unless there's some sort of written statement confirming that your situation will change going forward or your income will change. So there's a grid on the application with all of the types of income that we're thinking about, but you really just want to try to total up any kind of income that's coming into the household. It could be wages from self-employment or from an employer, Social Security, SSDI, child support, alimony, retirement distributions, unemployment. Some people are getting pensions, workman's comp, that sort of thing. Even periodic payments from friends or family, that sort of thing would need to be counted as income as well. So there's not a minimum income for this affordable housing program. However, most management teams, including the team at Aura, want to be sure that all applicants are able to afford the rent. So regardless of whether or not you are a market rate or a affordable renter at Aura, the management company has set the minimum household income or equivalent to 2.5 times the monthly rent. And those amounts are in the information packet as well. I want to read those to you to make sure that I have them right here. I'm just going to look that up real quick. Yep. So if you're looking to rent a 1-bedroom apartment, the approximate minimum household income would need to be $57,240. If you're looking to rent a 2-bedroom apartment, the household minimum income is $63,120, and for a 3-bedroom apartment, that minimum is $68,700. So if you have a mobile housing voucher, you can disregard those minimum incomes because they will not apply to your family. However, if you do not have a housing voucher, if you do have a housing voucher, you're going to want to check in with your housing authority or the agency who issues your voucher to confirm that the rents are within the agency's payment standards or maximum rent. The leasing office at Aura is going to eventually confirm with your housing authority that the rents are permissible, but it would be best for you to know sooner rather than later if it will work out. Applicants without a voucher, what this means is you're going to, hopefully, to qualify for the lottery, have a household income between the minimum income floor that I just mentioned and the program maximum income limit. Only exception to this is households with incomes that are really just below that minimum income limit or income floor, I should say. And if a household is close to that minimum income, but has liquid assets that you might be able to access to pay the rent, your application might be considered by the leasing office. So it's really the leasing office's ultimate decision whether or not your household meets the minimum income requirements. The minimum incomes are not as strictly enforced because they're not a program regulation, while the income limits are a program requirement. There's no asset limit for rental opportunities. And so you could be retired, you could have a significant amount of assets in your bank account or in 401k. We are going to ask, even though there isn't an asset limit, when you're submitting documentation, you are going to see that we do still need to collect asset related documentation. And the reason for that is because if your assets are generating any interest, that interest would be counted towards your household income as an income. And so when you're thinking about assets, it's not just checking and savings accounts, CDs, that sort of thing. We are going to be asking for you to report retirement accounts, Venmo, PayPal, that sort of thing. Those types of statements we do need to see as well. If you have assets such as, personal assets like jewelry or art, we do not need to verify those for this program. So I'm going to move on to the lottery eligibility. Does anybody have any questions? I think I see something in chat here. But does anyone have any questions for the group before I move on to the lottery process? All right, so I'm going to move on to that. I'm just going to answer this one question here.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can.
Oh, hi. Sorry. Can we just go over, if I own my home now and I'm planning on selling it, it has to be sold before I sign the lease? Is that what you said?
That's right. Yep, you can still apply. You just would need to have your name off of the deed before signing a lease at Aura. Yeah.
Okay. And then, excuse me. And then the amount of money I get when I sell my house, I count that as an asset, right? The cash from the house, the sale of the house counts as an asset, right? Do I put that as an asset when I put that on the application?
Right. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And there's no asset limit.
Okay.
So that would be, that would be fine.
Yeah, there's no asset limit, but that would count towards my okay.
No, it would count towards your assets, which there is no limit. So
right.
it wouldn't hurt your application or impact your eligibility. No.
No, but that would count. See, okay, that's all I needed to know. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. You
Great.
just need to, just list anything that you have coming into the household as income.
Right.
Fine. Yep.
Right, and that I would know okay, that's great. Thank you so much. This is very helpful.
No problem.
Great.
So lottery eligibility is the next topic I want to touch on here. So as I mentioned earlier, if you're interested, you should just apply as soon as possible to get the process started. We also want to mention too that you can apply for more than one unit size. So if you think you might be interested in both a 1-bedroom and a 2-bedroom, for example, you should indicate that on your application. There'll be a checkbox for you to indicate what unit sizes you're applying for. There's really no downside in doing that, but there is a potential downside if you only apply to the 1 unit size and then decide later you would have liked to also have been on the waiting list for a 2-bedroom. So just remember that. When you submit your application with all of the supporting documentation, we're going to review it. We'll contact you if there's any information missing or appears incorrect. So you will have the chance to correct or resubmit as necessary. Most applicants don't submit a 100% complete application on the first try. And there's a couple reasons for that. The first being there's a lot of information required, but even if you do submit all information, sometimes we have follow-up questions for you. For example, if we see a deposit on your bank statement that we need to verify separately, or if we have questions on your pay stubs, that sort of thing sometimes comes up. So it's completely fine if you don't submit everything at once. You will be given additional time to submit that, the rest of your information. So that's part of the reason that we encourage applicants to get their applications in early to begin the process, because it could take a little while or a couple tries to get everything in. So if you're found eligible for the lottery, you're going to be sent a lottery application number in the form of a series of numbers. So if you are the first person to submit an application for ORA and have a complete application, your number is going to be A.001. It's just meant to be an anonymous identifier, so your name isn't called out during the lottery. It's not a ranking of any sort. It just corresponds with that order it was received. So that eligibility letter where the number is, it's also going to confirm your household, whether or not your household qualifies for local preference. So you would have indicated on your application if you believe that your household qualifies for that preference. And the necessary verification would have also been submitted with your paperwork already. So local preference could apply to you if you live in Medfield, you work in the town of Medfield, or you work in a business located within the town. So, also if you have if you're a guardian of a child attending Medfield Public Schools. 70% of the affordable units at ORA are going to have this local preference, which means that some local preference households will get priority for the units compared to households who don't have local preference. But also keep in mind that for 2-bedroom and 3-bedroom units, household type is going to be more heavily weighted than local preference in determining your waitlist placement. So what that means is if, for example, you're a type 2 household and you apply for a 2-bedroom unit, you're still going to have priority over any type 1 local preference households for that 2-bedroom unit. So in short, if you don't have local preference, you shouldn't be deterred at all from applying. And then there's more information about local preference too on page 17 of the information packet. And, if there isn't very many applicants who live in Medfield, then we may not have to have that local preference drawing, or it may not come into consideration much at all. And then that email, again, is going to also confirm the bedroom sizes you've applied for, as well as whether or not you've indicated that your household needs a disabled accessible or sensory accessible unit. So all that will be confirmed in the email or letter that you get following your application being approved for the lottery. So if at any time during this process you're found to be ineligible for the lottery, maybe you're over income, you own a home and are still on the deed, you're going to be informed by email, as long as we have your email address, or by mail if we don't, and you're going to be encouraged to contact us with any questions. We want to make sure that you understand, why you were denied. And the lottery itself is going to be held virtually on October 27th in the same manner that we're having this info session. So on Zoom at 6 p.m. and numbers will be drawn from a box, held up to the screen and recorded. And every lottery number will be drawn. So sometimes we think of lotteries, we think there's just one winner, but that's really not the purpose of these affordable housing lotteries. They're really just held in order for us to establish the waiting list for these units. So if there's a type 1 household drawn first in the lottery for a 2-bedroom unit, they're still going to be behind all those type 2 households on the 2-bedroom waiting list. So in general, if you're attending the lottery, it is more beneficial to you if your number is called early on in the process, but it might not necessarily be the deciding factor on whether or not you'll be moving forward in the process. So after the lottery is when we sort the results and send you the waiting list, and at that point you'll have a much better idea as to whether or not you'll be moving forward in the process. So also, if you're called later on in the lottery, there could be households ahead of you who are found ineligible later by the leasing office, or maybe they just decide not to rent the unit. So if your number is drawn later in the lottery, what I'm trying to get at here is you shouldn't lose hope. You might still have an opportunity to move forward in this process and rent one of the affordable units. Like I mentioned, following the lottery, we're going to populate those waiting lists. We're going to take household type, local preference, and whether or not your household requires accessibility features into consideration. And we will send those waiting lists normally the same night as the lottery to your email address. So when you're reviewing that email, you're going to find that lottery application number, and you'll be able to see where you fall on the waiting list. Let's move this over here. So after the lottery and the establishment of the waiting list, we're going to connect the top households from each of those waiting lists with the management team. So the leasing office at Aura, at that point, that's when you'll be put in touch with them. Your contact information will be provided to them. You'll also be given the management company's contact information. And so at that point, step 2, which is applying for the lease, that will start. So at that point, we at SCB Housing will have already completed your lottery and program eligibility screening. We haven't screened you for lease eligibility, so the management company is going to do that. Whatever market rate households are being screened for, that's the same screening that you will be having. They might be looking at credit, rental history, background checks, that sort of thing. You should be aware too that the management or leasing office may be inviting more households to complete their lease screening than there are available units. So for example, at Aura, there are 2 3-bedroom affordable units, but it's possible that they might be inviting 4 or more households from the waiting list to complete the lease screening. Management companies do this often because the process of leasing units is slowed down by households who just don't qualify. So it's standard practice to do that sort of thing. So even if you're the first household on one of these waiting lists following the lottery, you don't want to immediately give notice to your current landlord or anything like that because you haven't yet been approved by the management company. So just keep that in mind. There's a few steps in the process before that. So it's really at this point in the process that having a position near the top of the waiting list is beneficial to you. If you're the top household on the list, you have the first chance to reserve an affordable unit. So if you have the top position on the 1-bedroom waiting list, you're going to have the first choice at reserving one of the affordable 1-bedroom units. So this is true even if another applicant behind you on the waiting list happens to complete their lease application with the management office before you do. You're going to be able to tour the unit and make your decision based off of, based on the fact of whatever's important to you, the location in the building, when it's available for occupancy, whatever variables are important to you. That second household on the waiting list is going to have the second choice of the remaining units and so on. I have been told, I believe the units are available now. So if you wanted to schedule a tour, go by and see them, that should not be an issue immediately after the lottery. So I'm not anticipating that lease ups would need to occur months after the lottery. They should be available right away. And you'd be working out your lease date with the management office. It wouldn't need to be the first of the month or any specific date. You would work that out with them. So once leased, if you've leased one of these apartments, you're done with screenings until your lease renewal date. So at that point, 1 year from your lease, the date that you signed your lease, we hope you've been enjoying living in the unit, and we hope that you continue to live there beyond the first year. But and if you do, you would need to recertify your income with either SEB housing or the management office prior to your lease renewal. So what that'll include will just really be a lease screening or a income screening again. So you want to keep a file for as long as you're living in a affordable unit that has your tax, your income, and your asset information. So you have that handy each year. If during the first year or any year of your lease, your income increases and is above that 80% of the area median income, that's fine. Your household will remain eligible for the affordable apartments as long as your household income doesn't exceed 140% of the current AMI. Page 16 of the information packet has the figures for the different household sizes, but just want to give you an example of that. So if you're a household of 2, you will qualify for the lottery with an income at or below $89,500. That same household of 2 can make up to $125,300 at the time of their recertification in order to remain eligible for the affordable apartment. So a good jump there if you have an income change that you still would be eligible for the unit. That covers everything that I wanted to mention about the units in the application process for ORA at Medfield, and kind of all of the highlights of the information packet. Again, you can find the lottery application for the affordable apartments on our website, and along with the information packet. So I'll stick around for another minute in case there's any questions. You can either type or unmute yourself to ask.
Hi there.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Hi. So if I wanted to potentially take a tour and see an apartment now, I could do it?
I believe so. I actually reached out to the owner today to confirm, and their agent let me know that he believes that they're available. So that's why I'm prefacing it like that.
Okay.
But yeah, you don't have to, if it's available now, and you call or go there, they can show you around. It doesn't need to be after the lottery or anything like that. It would just be you as someone coming from the public to check them out.
Okay.
And I can, if you want to send me your email address in the chat, I can get back to you definitively on that in the next day or so when I hear back from them.
Okay, I'll do that. Thank you so much.
Sure. Anything else? All right, so again, lottery application is on our website, and thank you so much for joining, and I hope you have a great night. Lauren, you can also email your email address to info, oh, I got it, never mind. And I hope you have a great night. If you have any questions, you can reach out to us at info@sdbhousing.com if anything comes up later on.
Thank you.
No problem, have a great night.
You too. Bye-bye now.
See you.
Thank you.
Thank you, good night.